Okie dokie, here we go with our crazy dogs. We are going to, in this video, just prep this dog image, mask this dog image, place him onto our document, our host document or our assignment file where it's already been started. We've already done the backgrounds and there's some of the other dogs have been placed. And that'll be it. So right now, quickly, the prep is, this is our original JPEG. We are going to check the image size. It is already at 300, which is very nice, so we don't have to change that. And we just want to generally change the size of the image to be what is required, within the range of what is required. So I am just going to change the height, remembering that this bracket is on, and the resampling is checked on. I'm going to change just the height to 5, and I'm going to say OK. If I want to double check it, again, it's a square image and it's a 5-inch high by 5-inch wide. And we're going to change this and convert it to a smart object. We're going to name him Doggy4, I think he is. And then we are going to pull him over to the host document, or what is beginning, that is your sample, that is your assignment number 2 that has already been started. So what I like to do is go to Window, Arrange, Tile All Vertically. You simply click on the layer. So remember, it should be, in my case, it's a blue selection on my Mac. And I make sure I'm in the Move tool, and I pull my cursor from the dog over to the other file, and there he is in all his glory. And then I can close down Doggy Hat 4. If you want to save it, remember you can save him to perhaps a folder that you've created that's the sized images, so you don't have to go back if something happens that's bad. You can actually keep that sized one if you lose your smart object. I'm not going to, but I'm going to put it here. And as I recall, in the sample, he was kind of in this area, and then I think I remember him having kind of a funny little tilt to his head, so I'm going to transform him right away. I'm going to go to Control T or Command T, and you simply put your cursor I always put it by the corner, and it turns into a double arrow, and it can just rotate around. I kind of want to make it, I want his eyes to kind of mimic the landscape a little bit. And I'm going to say OK, and I hit the return key to apply that transformation. So now we need to mask him. I'm going to put him up above in the layer stack, above the other dogs, and turn them off so I don't get confused. And if it's still confusing with everything underneath, just turn your other things away. Just turn everything off, meaning just hit the eyeballs and turn your backgrounds and everything off. And that should make it kind of clear just if you get confused. I'm here. I'm on my smart object of Doggy4. I am going to, it's a very simple background. I'm going to use the magic wand by going to W. Remember that there are 2 tool sets in the W, tools in the tool set. There's the quick selection and the magic wand. It's really good for you to start looking at which icon looks like which, because they do similar things, but they do it differently. The magic wand is the simplest one. You can click on if you click on a nice basic background that's all one color, it's a simple way of selecting the background. I'm going to deselect this for a second just to show you. Up here, if you click contiguous, it's only going to pick the turquoise that it can get to. In other words, that's within the proximity of the wand. So I'll show you what happens. If you click here, see how it can't really get in here because there's something that's blocking it. So in this case, I would go to Command D or Control D to deselect. I would click my contiguous off. And because there's no other turquoise anywhere else that I can see, I'm going to click again, and it gets the whole darn thing in one fell swoop. So we have the background selected. Now we need to invert the selection by going to Command, oops, see, I hit the wrong one. I always do this. Command Shift I. And let's see, I think I've done it cuckoo, so I'm going to Command D that. If you get lost, so select it. If you get really lost, it is good to sometimes just go to select, go to inverse, to make sure you've got the right one. What it's doing is it's selecting the whole background, and that's okay. Let's see what happens when we hit the mask button. There we go. If you get lost, it's no big deal to just go back a step in your history, remember, and just select inverse again or get the selection that you want. And there we go. So I now need to see the background because I want to see what's going on with this dog. And on the sample, the dog is kind of coming off. His head is kind of coming out of the landscape. And there is no little doll. So I know that I have to go onto my mask part of the layer and do some editing. So I'm going to use the just the basic lasso tool by going to L. And I'm just going to kind of follow where I think the landscape is. And I'm just going to loop around. This kind of looks crazy. And then I can either go to Edit, Fill, and pick black, right? And that is added to our mask. That's one way of doing it. I'm going to go back a step so you can see some other ways. Or if that's confusing, because this is so simple, we could go to the brush tool by going to B, pick a brush that is hard. So you click here and you make sure that this control is at 100%, or at the very least like 96, but you want to keep it fairly hard. I'll put it at 97 or so you can see. Click out of there, and then you want to make sure that your foreground background, you're going to want to paint with black on your mask to conceal the bottom of his head there. So you're going to hit the X key to make sure that black is the paintable, is the active color. And now I'm using my brush to just paint where I think that landscape is going. I'm going right over the toy because the toy we're also going to delete, or we're not going to delete him, we're going to conceal him by painting him out with the mask. Just like so. And oops, did I get too much? So if you zoom in, you can always edit your mask again. I don't think it looks too bad, but I'm going to make my brush a little smaller by hitting that left bracket key. Oops. Remember, be on the mask part of it, and you want to switch. If you want to reveal it back again, you have to paint with white, and then I'm going back to black. You just toggle with the X key back and forth and back and forth. And that looks pretty good. There's some little bits there that's not perfect, but I think we've got it going to where we want. And that looks good. So that was simply getting our little guy to look like he's coming out of the landscape. Now, if you wanted to push him down more, you could you could push the whole thing down, actually, if you wanted to pull him down even more, and you would just edit that mask even more. Maybe it's funnier if we're going to tilt him again by transforming him, tilt him a little bit more. And this is just aesthetic decision. I'm just showing you what I do. Now, I could do that other technique that's almost easier, but if I want to see the landscape through this, I can go to, oh, you haven't learned this yet, so I won't do that. You could go to opacity and just see him through. This needs to be on normal. You could kind of see through the layer, but you don't really have to, you haven't learned that quite yet necessarily. What I like to do is actually just click on the mask, which brings up the black and the white, and just kind of fake it. And you can kind of get a sense of what that landscape might look like by just looking like that. Or again, if you want to be really advanced, and this is what you're going to do, like that looks like too much, I'm seeing the sky, I'm toggling to white to kind of reveal a little bit more of the dog head. And we're just kind of faking it a little bit here. Maybe we'll make it a little rough where the bushes are. But that's good enough for our assignment. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I'm going to turn the other the other dogs that I put in there on. And there's one thing I hadn't shown you. Remember on the sample, that little cat is, this is the way he comes in, but on the sample, he's pointing the other direction. So go on the layer, go to the Move tool, and go to Edit, Transform. So you pull down to Transform, and all the way down at the bottom, put Flip Horizontal. And he flips completely horizontally. He just mirrors over to the other side, and then you want to position him. Now he needs to be above the other dog that we just put in, doesn't he? Because look at his ear is underneath the dog. So to change the layer stack, you just move him right up on top of the other one, and now we're good. And then, but now he's blocking our little gnome guy, so we're going to pull him up above the cat, and there we go. So sometimes you just have to shuffle the layers around until it works. But that's that lesson. Hope that helps. I'll do one more thing. If now you're confused about where you've gotten with this and you're not sure if you actually sized this little guy, the dog in the hat, number 2, properly, to check your work, to check that you've sized it properly, you double click on the icon of the smart object. So the little thumbnail, just double click on that. Says okay. Remember, it brings up another tab. It's just the dog. And so in other words, if we looked at both of what we've got here, we have our layout, and then the dog and hat.psb, see up here? That's your smart object. And this is what I check when I check whether you've sized it properly. You just go to Command Option I, and he's 6 inches high, which I think was allowed, and we're going to say okay. That's how you can check it. If, let's say, just for kicks, that 6 inches is too big, and all you need to do is go down a little bit, you could still, on this smart object, you could still size it down. You can't go up, and if you've got a mask, it's going to change the mask. So I'll show you what happens. So we're not going to obviously change the resolution. We're going to click Resample on and change the height to 5. And then we're going to say OK. You can see it kind of shrank, but now you have to close the Smart Object tab. And when you close it, it says, do you want to save? You do want to save, so say yes, save. And what happens, as you can see on the layout, on our host document, he's been resized, and now the mask is incorrect. So, but that's not that big a deal, probably. So what you could do is throw your mask away, and by just clicking on it, hitting the trash can, the mask goes away, and then you just have to go back and use whatever tool you used to select our little dog. I'm using the quick selection because it's quick, and I'm thinking that's kind of okay. I'm going to move my layer panel out of the way, and I'm just going to hit that mask button. And it's not great, but I can now go into the mask and kind of paint with black. So do you see I did that wrong. So everybody does that wrong. You just toggle with the X key, paint with black, get that green, those green lawn bits concealed. I'm doing it kind of quickly for this video. And there you go. It wasn't that big a deal to fix it. And so then, of course, you would go to the Move tool and you would move him around wherever he needed to be. I'm zooming out. That's how you do that. Hope this helps, and we're going to continue on.